Alright, let me close a little window over here. Okay, so this video is about the thesis development for your field study assignment. And so your essay is actually, it's not due for a little while, but we're going to start building the pieces of it prior. And at this point, you should have a pretty good idea after you've chosen your theory as to what you're going to do with the essay. So if you haven't done your observation yet, that's completely fine because you can still tell me your plans. Tell me what theory hopefully you plan to use, or if you plan to do um, inductive research, then you plan to come up with your theory later, in which case that's fine. You just kind of tell me that, but explain it a little bit. But anyways, with that, it might hinder the thesis a little bit. So let me think about that while I'm actually going through it. Because if you haven't done the observation, you want to do inductive reasoning or research, then you might have a hard time coming up with a thesis. But next week you're going to have to start writing the paper essentially anyways, so it's a good time this week, I think, to just go ahead and get your observation done. Anyways, I'll think about that. So first and foremost, the thesis itself, you can write a thesis any way you want. And so I'll go ahead and give you a disclaimer. Is if you know how to write an effective thesis, then you can just stop the video now and just continue on with other work and just go ahead and write your thesis and turn it in down on your thesis for field study essay. And I'll show you that at the end of the video. It's an assignment there. You've probably already seen it. But anyways, if you don't, however, feel comfortable writing a thesis, that's kind of what this video is for. You're in luck because, like I said at the beginning of the semester, I'm also a writing teacher, so I can help you develop your parts of the essay. Now, thesis. If you're writing a thesis, it typically consists of at least 4 parts, and those 4 parts are included in one sentence. So a thesis. All right. You're going to need that to be a one-sentence statement, basically, because the thesis is supposed to be a summary of the entire essay in one single sentence. That way the reader can read that one sentence and they can say, okay, that's what this assignment's actually about, or what this paper is about, and they can know at that point whether they want to continue reading or they can just set it down because they don't care about it. So how do you develop that? What else goes in the thesis? Well, I use what's called the SOAR acronym. It's something I made up because it's the elements that I've always found need to be in a thesis in order to have an actual thesis. And so I just kind of compiled them and said, okay, I'm going to call them this. And essentially this is what it boils down to. You have a subject, right? Every paper, every essay, every sentence should have a subject, right? Then you also have the opinion. I'm actually going to erase these bottom lines because they're going to get in the way. But every academic essay you write should have your opinion somewhere embedded in there. Now, a lot of people ask the question, well, how am I arguing my opinion if I can't use I, me, and my, right? Because you can't have personal pronouns in your essay. Well, if that's the case, you're just doing it in third person. That's really the only difference. You're making the argument, but you're not saying it's my argument, because it's not necessarily just your argument, it's an argument. It's an argument that can be made, and the idea behind that is that if it's your argument, people can attack you. That's what they call a fallacy, and I won't get into that too much, but it's called an ad hominem. And that means that you're attacking the person rather than attacking the argument. If you take yourself out of the essay, i.e. get rid of I's and me's and my's and use they's and he's and this author, then you take yourself out of the argument, and they can't attack you as easily. And so that's kind of why we do that. Anyways, so the point being here is that you have an opinion, and every essay you ever write should. And as a matter of fact, just about everything you write should have an opinion, because otherwise, why write it? They might be doing informative essays, which, that's a different topic, a different beast, so to speak. But we're writing an academic research paper, and so that's and you're actually conducting a good chunk of that research. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. So anyways, you need an opinion. You'll also need an action, basically, in essence, what you're doing for this essay, and why you're doing it, which is then the last part, which is the reason. And that's why are you doing this? You have an action, right? You have an opinion, you have a subject. Why are you writing this paper? What do you hope that your readers will do after they read your paper? So let's talk about this a little bit. The subject, in this case, is going to be leadership styles of XYZ organization, whatever organization. So I'm going to say Realistically, this is what they would call kind of a case study because you're looking at one organization. It's a single case study. And so you're looking, in this case, McDonald's leadership. And so if this was ever to get published, it would be published in maybe a leadership journal and where you would be analyzing McDonald's leadership. And they would say, okay, if McDonald's does it this way and you see it somewhere else, it may not apply to, say, Quiznos or, well, Quiznos ain't even hardly around, but it may not apply to, Hardee's, right, or Carl's Jr. or wherever you go. So it is very specific to McDonald's, and that's fine. That's part of having a case study. But anyways, so now the opinion is whether it has to do with your theory. Okay, so it depends on if you did inductive or deductive. Well, I suppose it really doesn't. It does for right now, but in the end game, it doesn't really make much difference if you use inductive or deductive, because essentially here, what you're saying is either this theory is present or this theory isn't present, and it needs to be, right? There's only two options there for this assignment. So I'm just going to go ahead and go out on a limb and assume most people are going to do inductive, where you're just kind of coming up with a theory after the fact to figure out what theory applies. And this would be a really good opportunity if in the future, if you pursue research. This is how you come up with new theories. So this is how Freud came up with all of his theories about sexuality. And this is how, well, the guys that created self-determination theory, that's how they came up with it. They made an observation, and they explored the phenomenon, and then from that they generated this self-determination theory. So that's also how you would create a new theory. Anyways, the action, I do that last. And then the reason I say, well, sorry, let me go back here. I'm going to use habit 1, but I'm going to call it proactive leadership. So I'm going to say that McDonald's, they use proactive leadership effectively. So that's my opinion. And then the action, again, I'll tell you that in a second, but the reason. Now, why are you telling your readers this? What do you hope to gain? I mean, aside from a grade, right? Let's take that out of the equation. Imagine this is actually going to be published, right? Because it could. There's nothing stopping you from taking this essay and sending it off to a journal for publication, because you have actually done empirical research. It's a case study. So anyways, where was I with this? Oh yeah, so why? What do you hope will become of the reader who reads your essay? What do you hope that they'll take away from this? What do you hope they'll do? So in this case, I'm going to say that I hope that they will. Why am I focusing on this theory being presented? Why do I focus on this theory? Because I want other people to understand the benefits of this as well. I want readers to understand. Now, you could do a million different things there. You could actually say that you want other people to adopt this. You want other companies to adopt this. You want other McDonald's to adopt this theory. You just want to highlight the effectiveness of it. You just want to show people the benefits. I think that's what I said, right? Yeah, I want readers to observe the benefits. And so now I'm going to leave the action for the end, because what I do now is I take these 4 elements and I just basically inject them into a single sentence. And I call it a stock sentence. So if you've had my class before, you know what I'm talking about. But think of a car. If you have a stock car, like it comes with stock parts, then it's kind of a it's that prototype that we've been talking about, right? It's the one car that just basically comes. Well, maybe not prototype. That's a bad term. It's the car that comes with all the generic parts, right? It's everything. If you get what are those ones that I see driving around? So the Chevy Cruze. If you get one Chevy Cruze, and I don't know what the types are, but let's just say it's an S, right? If you see another Chevy Cruze S, it's going to have the exact same parts. Maybe a different color, but it's going to be pretty much the exact same car. And that's the same thing here. I'm going to give you a stock sentence, a generic sentence that you can use to get started. And if you don't like it, you can change it. And I mean, if you're watching this video, hopefully you're using this to create your sentence. So you can use it to get started and then change it any way you want. But anyways, this is what I do. I'm going black here. Where are we at? There we are. Okay, sorry, my screensaver came on. So, in order to blank, this first blank is going to be the reason. You'll plug the reason into that blank. Blank again. It's going to be the action, which is actually why I tell you to wait, because the action is kind of the most difficult part. But it's super easy if you wait for the sentence, because then you just have to fill the sentence in. You just have to make the sentence make sense. And I'll show you in just a sec. With this essay blank, 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 right? Because then you have two more blanks, the subject and the opinion. So now I'm going to plug it in. I'm going to plug in my pieces. In order to, now I would actually say in order for readers to observe the benefits of proactive leadership. Okay, so I plugged that in there. I made it make sense, right? So in order for readers to observe the benefits of proactive leadership, this essay, what does it do? It in action. Basically, I'm going to say, let's come back to it. This essay blanks, and then we have to plug in the subject and opinion. Okay, so I kind of had to reword it a little bit just because it didn't really make sense as a sentence. You can kind of see we really have parts. McDonald's leadership uses proactive leadership effectively. And so I kind of explained it a little bit so that it could be sentence form, but now we have basically a complete thesis. We just have one more piece. In order for readers to observe the benefits of proactive leadership, this essay blanks that McDonald's leadership approach is one of proactivity that facilitates employee effectiveness, because that's essentially what we observed, right? Or hypothetically. Now, what one word are we missing? And that's the action. The action is usually really difficult to pinpoint in the beginning, but now that we have an entire sentence, it's pretty easy to just plug in one word. I'm going to go with, in order for readers to observe the benefit of proactive leadership, this essay let's say highlights. Now, it doesn't really make sense in the whole sentence, so I'm going to go through and edit a little bit. This essay highlights McDonald's leadership approach as one of proactivity that facilitates employee effectiveness. So that is more or less how you come up with a thesis. If you use my stock sentence and you decide to go back and change it, that's fine. Whatever, you could even just use you can even use this stock sentence. I mean, fill in your own criteria. You can fill in your own SOAR acronym elements, which, by the way, I forgot to plug this in here. But once you're done, your job now is to come down here to the Thesis Field Study Essay Assignment, Thesis 4 Field Study Essay Assignment. And up here, you'll have, of course, the submit button. You'll submit your assignment. And I'm looking for you to give me the SOAR acronym, fill that out, but then also give me your whole thesis. All right, the revised final version. So other than that, that's really all we have for this week. We have the choice of, I mean, I've outlined everything in the week in the intro, what do they call it, the overview video. But this video goes over the thesis. So you have the thesis we've already talked about. We've talked about the lens for the field study. The only other thing is the week 7 whole group discussion. That's well, that is a question that we will I talked about in the week 7 overview video. So anyways, that's all we have for the week. Go ahead and make sure you get those assignments done by the end of the week, and I will see you guys in week 8.